Queen Bilkis, also known as the Queen of Sheba, stands as one of the most mysterious queens in history, a legendary figure even mentioned in the Quran. According to Islamic tradition, she became the wife of Prophet Suleiman alayhi salam, and her powerful kingdom stretched from South Arabia all the way to Africa. But the stories surrounding her are filled with mystery and wonder. Some legends claim that Bilqis was not entirely human, that she was half human and half jinn. Could it be true? Could Prophet Suleiman alayhi salam, who was granted authority over the jinn and commanded them for his works, have truly married a being of mixed origin? What do the ancient Islamic narratives tell us about this? Yet this extraordinary tale doesn't begin with a queen. It begins with a small bird, the hudhud. This remarkable bird, known for understanding human speech and carrying messages across great distances, played a pivotal role in history. It was through this tiny creature that a queen, once a worshipper of the sun, discovered the truth of monotheism, embracing faith and forever changing the course of her kingdom's story. If you're ready, let's embark on this journey into the legend of Queen Bilqis. The soldiers had gathered, waiting for their leader, Prophet Suleiman alayhi salam. This was no ordinary army. It was the most unique force in history, a legion commanded by a prophet, consisting not only of humans but also jinn, birds, and animals. Even the wind obeyed his command, carrying him swiftly to wherever he wished to go. The human troops stood in formation infantry and horsemen ready for battle. The jinn forces, unseen by the human eye, were scattered like invisible shadows across the land. For the enemies of Suleiman alayhi salam, this army was terrifying, for much of its strength could not be seen. Among the animals, lions led with authority, followed by tigers and other wild beasts, while the skies were guarded by eagles, shaheens, and the ever-watchful hudhud. Hudhud's mission was clear: to scout, to spy, and to deliver intelligence from distant lands. But on this day, something was different. The camp noticed Hudhud's absence. Quiet murmurs rippled through the ranks. What if the commander arrived and found Hudhud missing? When Suleiman alayhi salam appeared, his sharp gaze swept across the formation. He, too, noticed that the bird was gone. But Hudhud had a reason, a mission far from the battlefield. High above the distant land of Queen Saba, the small bird soared, crossing vast deserts until finally reaching her kingdom. Perched on the highest tree overlooking the city, Hudhud scanned the streets, the palaces, the fortified gates, and something unusual caught his attention. The city was alive with activity, as if preparing for an important ceremony. Curious, Hudhud called out to a local bird nearby. "Oh, beautiful bird of this land, tell me, what is happening here?" The bird replied, "The people are gathering to honor their queen. Soon they will bow down in a ceremony, a ritual of worship, to the sun." Hudhud's sharp instincts were confirmed. Remaining still, he observed everything closely. First the guards, then the commanders, then the soldiers, and finally the queen herself, seated on a magnificent throne. She rose gracefully, lifted her hands, and bowed deeply toward the blazing sun. And the entire crowd followed, lowering themselves in worship. Stunned, Hudhud knew this was critical information for Prophet Suleiman alayhi salam. Without hesitation, the bird took to the skies once again, enduring days of exhausting flight until finally returning to the camp. As soon as Hudhud arrived, the other birds swarmed around him, eager to hear what news he carried from the distant land. A small bird, flustered and angry, scolded Hudhud upon his return. "Where were you? Our leader, Prophet Suleiman alayhi salam, asked about you. You'd better have a good reason for your disappearance." Shaken by the words, Hudhud knew there was no time to waste. Trembling, he flew straight to Suleiman alayhi salam's tent, where the Prophet was having his meal. Slipping quietly through the window, Hudhud perched carefully on the edge of the table, keeping a safe distance from the Prophet's hands. His head hung low in fear. He offered a soft greeting, bowing politely, his gaze barely lifting beyond Suleiman alayhi salam's hands and chest. He was too embarrassed, too nervous to look into his master's eyes. But Hudhud knew he had to speak, and speak the truth. From his great leader, he had learned that honesty was the key to earning trust. "My lord," Hudhud began, his voice trembling, "I have returned with urgent news from a faraway land, news you do not yet know. I saw a woman in Saba, a queen ruling over her people. She sits on a magnificent throne and has been given everything one could desire. But I saw her and her people prostrating to the sun instead of Allah. Satan has made their deeds seem beautiful to them." His words were powerful, filled with urgency. Hudhud wanted Suleiman alayhi salam to understand that his absence was not neglect, it was a mission of great importance. Suleiman alayhi salam listened carefully. Then, in his calm but commanding voice, the Prophet replied, "We will see if what you say is true. I will write a letter, you will deliver it, and we shall observe how they respond." A royal seal was pressed upon the letter, and Hudhud took it in his beak, soaring once again toward the distant land of Saba. When he reached the kingdom, he perched quietly in the garden of the palace, scanning the grand structure until his sharp eyes found the queen's chamber, a large room with an open balcony. Silent as the wind, Hudhud glided inside through the window, hiding among the ornate carvings of the ceiling. Below, Queen Bilkis slept, her hair cascading across the pillow, her face serene and strikingly beautiful. Hudhud paused, his tiny heart heavy. How could someone so blessed with beauty, wealth, and power still worship the sun? How cruelly Satan has misled them, he thought. But another thought followed quickly. If Suleiman alayhi salam's army marched upon this land, defeat was inevitable. No force could stand against a prophet whose soldiers included men, jinn, and even the forces of nature. Should he drop the letter now, or wait for her to awaken? As he hesitated, the letter slipped from his beak, fluttering gently down onto the queen's bed. Startled, Bilqis opened her eyes. She looked around, sensing something strange, but saw nothing. Her eyes fell upon the letter. Nervously, she picked it up and unfolded it. In silence, she read the message of the Prophet. "In the name of Allah, the most kind, the most merciful. I invite you to believe in the one God. Do not act arrogantly with me. Come to me and submit yourself before the truth." Queen Bilkis was furious. She clutched the mysterious letter in her hand and looked around her chamber. "Who dares to enter my room? Who brought this letter?" she demanded. Her guards, startled by her anger, rushed inside. With swords drawn, they insisted that no one had entered. "Your Majesty," they said, "we have been guarding your chamber without closing our eyes. No one passed us, we swear it." But the queen's suspicion only deepened. Unbeknownst to anyone, Hudhud, the messenger bird, was quietly listening from a tiny crack in the wall, carefully hidden from sight. Bilqis raised her voice again, her tone sharp and commanding. Then, from where did this letter come? She held it high for everyone to see. The guards looked at each other, confused and shaken. None could explain this strange event. Without wasting another moment, the queen summoned her council for an emergency meeting. As her advisers gathered in the royal chamber, she stood before them, her voice steady but urgent. "My trusted advisers," she said, "I have received a letter, an unusual letter. It is from Suleiman alayhi salam. He begins with the name of Allah, the most kind, the most merciful. And he says, "Come to me without arrogance. Submit yourselves to the truth. Tell me, what do you think we should do?" One advisor stepped forward with confidence. "Your Majesty, this means only one thing. King Suleiman alayhi salam demands that we bow to him. It is a declaration of war. We must fight." Another chimed in, "Yes, we are powerful. Let us show our strength and resist." Many of the council members agreed, their voices rising in favor of war. But then a calm, wise advisor spoke up. "Before we act, we should first find the messenger who delivered this letter. Only he can tell us the true intentions of King Suleiman alayhi salam." The queen shook her head slowly. "There was no messenger," she admitted. "When I awoke, the letter was already on my bed." A hush fell over the chamber. The wise advisor spoke again, this time with caution. "Then this is even more troubling. If Suleiman alayhi salam can deliver a message in such a mysterious and powerful way without anyone seeing the messenger, who knows what strength he commands? We should wait." The queen considered these words, then spoke decisively. "When kings attack a land, they devastate it. They humiliate its honorable people and leave them in ruins. I fear the same will happen to us. I suggest we send him gifts, lavish gifts, and observe his response. From there, we will understand his intentions." No one in the council objected. The decision was made. The news spread quickly across the kingdom. A gift of gold and jewels was to be prepared for King Suleiman alayhi salam. No expense would be spared. "Make it magnificent," the advisors instructed the craftsmen. "Our future depends on his mercy." Day and night the finest artisans worked, shaping gold, embedding rare jewels, and polishing the masterpiece. At last, the gift was ready, a golden plate adorned with two intricately carved wolves, their eyes glittering with precious stones. When Queen Bilqis saw the masterpiece, her stern expression softened. "Yes," she said with satisfaction, "this will please him." She ordered her messengers to prepare for the journey. Alongside them, she sent one of her most trusted commanders, tasked not only with delivering the gift, but also with discovering the true power of Suleiman alayhi salam's army, and, above all, understanding what this mysterious prophet truly wanted from her and her people. By the time Queen Bilqis's envoys had set out with their lavish gifts, the news had already reached Prophet Suleiman alayhi salam. High above the desert skies, Hudhud, the tireless bird, had spotted the convoy crossing the borders of Saba. Without delay, he flew swiftly back to deliver the report. Suleiman alayhi salam immediately understood the queen's intentions. She was not merely sending presents, she was testing his strength, seeking to learn his true purpose and the might of his army. With calm authority, the prophet gave his order. "Prepare the army. When her messengers arrive, they must see the full measure of what Allah has granted us. Before they even meet me, I want them to know submission is their only choice." And so Suleiman alayhi salam's vast army assembled in formation, row after row of soldiers, humans and jinn alike, stretching across the horizon. Lions and tigers roared from their ranks, elephants stood towering, and the skies darkened with wings as flocks of birds circled above. Even the wind seemed to bow, ready to carry the prophet wherever he commanded. When the envoys of Queen Bilkis finally arrived, their eyes widened in disbelief. They had never seen such power. They began counting the soldiers, but their task soon became meaningless. For this was no ordinary army. It was a force where men marched beside beasts, where creatures of the unseen moved silently among the living. Their astonishment grew when they saw weapons shifting and moving as if alive. "What is this?" they whispered nervously. Their guide, one of Suleiman alayhi salam's officers, answered calmly, "This is only a small group of the jinn. They are finishing their morning training." The envoys exchanged fearful glances. If this was merely training, what then was the true strength of Suleiman alayhi salam's forces? Their awe turned into dread. It was clear. No kingdom on earth could stand against such might. Yet, despite their eagerness, Suleiman alayhi salam refused to meet them directly. Instead, he sent his commander to receive the gifts and deliver his message. In the palace, the messengers presented the gold and jewels they had carried across deserts. But compared to the majesty around them, their offerings looked insignificant. Hesitantly, they handed them over, only for the officer to return minutes later. He placed the gifts back before them and declared, "Suleiman alayhi salam has refused to accept these. His message is this: do you think you can please me with wealth? What Allah has given me is far greater than what you possess. Take back your gifts. If I come with my army, I will show you a power beyond imagination. Your cities will be humbled, your pride destroyed." The envoys trembled. They asked in desperation, "Then what does Suleiman alayhi salam want? Tell us clearly, so we may report truthfully to our queen." The officer replied with solemn clarity, "He desires only one thing, that your queen and her people submit to Allah, the one God, and bow their heads before Him." The message was unmistakable, an offer of peace, but also a warning that defiance would bring ruin. The messengers returned swiftly to Saba. Upon their arrival, they found Queen Bilqis resting, but as per her instructions, her servants woke her immediately, for the fate of her kingdom depended on what they had to say. As soon as Queen Bilqis awoke, her first words were urgent. "Tell me, what did Suleiman alayhi salam say when you gave him the gift?" The messengers bowed and replied, "Your Majesty, we did not meet Suleiman alayhi salam himself. One of his commanders received the gifts, but they were returned to us, and with them a message." They recounted Suleiman alayhi salam's words in detail, his refusal to accept wealth, his warning of unimaginable power, and his single demand, submission to Allah, the one God. Bilqis lowered her head in silence. Her thoughts turned heavy. Suleiman alayhi salam had not only rejected her gifts, but had shown no fear of her power, nor granted her envoys any special honor. His messengers had seen everything, the vastness of his army, the beasts and birds, even the jinn under his command. The queen now understood the gravity of her position. If she chose war, she risked the total destruction of her kingdom. But if she yielded, she risked her throne and pride. For a long moment she gazed at the rejected treasures, lost in thought. Then she resolved to summon her royal council and war advisors. The next meeting would decide the fate of two great kingdoms. Meanwhile, in Suleiman alayhi salam's city, another council was gathering. His advisors, commanders, ministers, and scholars filled the great hall. 2 lions guarded the entrance, while Hudhud, the bird who had carried news from Saba, perched nearby, ready to report. Suleiman alayhi salam opened the council with solemn words. "I thank Allah, who has given us wealth, power, and knowledge. Yet how is it possible, how can it be, that while we live under the banner of Tawheed, there are still people bowing to the sun? This is not just their failure, it is our responsibility." Though anger burned within him, Suleiman alayhi salam spoke with restraint, for he did not rule in arrogance, but as a servant of Allah, responsible for spreading His truth. The army commander rose, sword in hand, his voice fierce. "O Prophet of Allah, give me the order, and I will destroy the throne of Saba and all who deny the Almighty." But Suleiman alayhi salam shook his head. "I do not delight in violence. Let us seek another way. I hope their queen will come here herself. But before she does, who among you can bring me her throne?" A mighty jinn stepped forward confidently. "I can bring it to you before you rise from your place. You know my strength." But then a scholar, one blessed with special knowledge from Allah, spoke humbly. "I can bring it to you before your eyes even blink." Suleiman alayhi salam accepted his offer, and in an instant, before the council could grasp what was happening, the magnificent throne of Queen Bilkis appeared in their midst. It was as if it had been lifted from one world and placed into another, a feat beyond human imagination, like a miracle of teleportation. Gasps filled the hall. Ministers, commanders, and soldiers stared in awe. Even Hudhud fluttered in confusion, trying to understand what had just transpired. Meanwhile, far away in the city of Saba, the royal and war councils gathered under Queen Bilqis. The air was heavy with fear. Faces were pale, eyes filled with uncertainty. The queen spoke in a weary voice. "Today, we face the most difficult challenge in our history. Suleiman alayhi salam demands that we bow before him and before the God he worships. He threatens to erase our power. Tell me, what should we do?" One advisor suggested cautiously, "Perhaps if your majesty goes to him in person, if you present yourself with gifts even greater than before, there may be peace." But another voice, grim and anxious, added, "And if he refuses again, then war is the only path left. But such a war may erase us from the pages of history." The room fell into silence. The fate of Saba hung in the balance. Everyone looked to Queen Bilqis as the last hope. With courage, she made her decision. She would take the risk and travel to the palace of Prophet Suleiman alayhi salam. Preparations began immediately. Rare treasures, priceless ornaments, and the most magnificent gifts of her kingdom were gathered for the journey. But Prophet Suleiman alayhi salam already understood the queen's heart. She had misconceptions about power, pride in wealth, and glory in her kingdom's industry and technology. Suleiman alayhi salam wanted her to see a greater truth. Real greatness does not lie in gold or worldly progress. It lies beneath the flag of Tawheed, the oneness of Allah. He often reminded his people, "If you lose the world but find Allah, you have won. But if you gain the whole world and lose Allah, then what have you truly gained?" Suleiman alayhi salam, the wise prophet, then ordered something unusual. He had already summoned the queen's throne through divine knowledge, but now he commanded that its design be changed. When he saw the sun symbol carved upon it, he remarked, "How foolish it is to bow before the sun. Even if the sun were made of gold, it would be falsehood to worship it." The symbol was removed, and the throne was subtly redesigned under his command. At the same time, the prophet called upon the greatest architect of his realm. He gave an extraordinary order. "Build for me a palace upon water, a palace that will appear to float. Its entrance must be transparent so that whoever enters will see only water beneath their feet." The architect suggested, "My lord, if I use pure glass for the floor, the water will be clearly visible below. Shall I also make the roof and the walls from glass so that the sunlight shines through and reflects upon the waters?" Suleiman alayhi salam approved the idea. With the help of the jinn, the construction began swiftly. Piece by piece, a glittering glass palace rose above the waters, unlike anything the world had ever seen. Meanwhile, Queen Bilqis set out with her royal convoy. Hudhud, the faithful bird, awaited her arrival at the border, along with one of Suleiman alayhi salam's officers. As she approached, Bilqis saw wonders she had once doubted. The land of Suleiman alayhi salam was full of marvels beyond imagination. The closer she drew to the palace, the greater her astonishment became. She witnessed a portion of Suleiman alayhi salam's army, an army unlike any on earth. Humans marched alongside lions, tigers, elephants, birds, and even jinn. Weapons moved as though alive, and the air itself seemed to obey. A deep fear gripped her heart. Her chest tightened, her breath grew heavy, and her pulse quickened. This was no ordinary king. This was a prophet of Allah. This was no ordinary power. What Queen Bilqis witnessed could not be explained by human strength alone. It was clear that some divine authority guided Suleiman alayhi salam. The queen, once proud of her kingdom's greatness and progress, now found her confidence shaken. Her pride began to crumble, and awe slowly replaced arrogance. Fear turned into reverence as she prepared to step into the magnificent palace of Suleiman alayhi salam. The sight before her was breathtaking. The kingdom was not only built with wealth and splendor, but with artistry beyond imagination. Golden pillars rose in every corner, doors sparkled with precious stones, and exquisite handmade artifacts adorned the halls. Yet the most astonishing feature awaited her at the entrance, a glass floor under which clear water flowed like a shimmering stream. From where she stood, it looked like a deep pool. As she moved forward cautiously, Bilqis believed she was stepping into water. She lifted her gown to keep it dry, revealing her feet. At that moment, the mystery deepened. According to ancient accounts, the glass floor was not merely decoration, but a deliberate test. As a prophet of Allah who commanded the jinn, Suleiman alayhi salam possessed hidden knowledge. Whispers had long circulated that Bilqis was no ordinary woman, but half human and half jinn. And it was said that jinn often bore distinctive features, such as hair upon their feet. The glass floor, therefore, was a way to reveal the truth. But where did this belief come from? In some traditions, Bilqis was said to be the daughter of a human queen and a powerful ifrit, a jinn of fire. These tales claimed she inherited both human beauty and traces of jinn-like traits. However, the Quran makes no such claim, nor do authentic Ethiopian texts. Instead, they describe her as a wise and intelligent queen, remembered for her purity and sharp mind. Islamic scholars agree. Bilqis was human. The rumors of her jinn origin were likely spread by the jinn themselves. They feared that if she married Suleiman alayhi salam and bore a son, he too would inherit his father's divine authority, condemning the jinn once again to servitude. They longed for freedom after Suleiman alayhi salam's death, and so they spread lies to turn him against her. Suleiman alayhi salam, however, knew well the deceitful nature of the jinn. That is why he designed this subtle test. And when Bilqis revealed her feet, they were perfectly human. His doubts were dispelled. When Queen Bilqis stepped onto the glass floor, Suleiman alayhi salam was finally convinced she was indeed a human being. Then he revealed another astonishing sight, her very own throne. Bilqis gazed at it in disbelief. "Is this your throne?" asked Suleiman alayhi salam. She studied it carefully. It was undeniably hers, yet something about it had been altered. Unsure of how to respond, she whispered, "It looks very similar." But when she observed more closely, she realized the truth. It was not merely a copy. It was her throne, transported here in ways beyond human comprehension and changed under the command of Allah. Beneath it lay a message: "We are among those who bow before Allah." This was yet another sign of divine power. Bilqis fell into deep thought. The more she reflected, the more she recognized the weakness of her people's faith compared to the wisdom and truth of Suleiman alayhi salam. That day, Suleiman alayhi salam invited her to dine with him. Seated beside her, he spoke not of power, but of faith. He reminded her of Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the most merciful, the one who created the sun only to serve mankind. It is an insult to human intelligence, he said, for anyone to bow before creation when we should bow only before the Creator. Bilqis listened with her heart open. For the first time she realized the sun her people worshipped was nothing more than a deception of Shaitan. Its light dimmed in her soul, and in its place a new light rose, one that would never set. Soon her advisers came and reminded her of their rituals, saying, "The sun is about to set. It is time for our prayers." But the queen stood tall and declared, "Fools! Do you truly believe the sun deserves worship? Shaitan has deceived us all. From this day forward, I will not bow to the sun. I will bow only to Allah." Her advisers trembled and departed, leaving her heart free for the first time. In that moment, Queen Bilqis embraced Islam. She admitted that she had deceived herself for too long and with deep emotion submitted to the truth. Soon, her people followed her example. The kingdom of Saba abandoned sun worship and turned toward Allah alone. And it all began with a single voice, the small bird Hudhud, whose message carried the light of truth across kingdoms. This timeless story, preserved in the Quran, reminds us of the power of knowledge, the importance of humility, and the blessing of guidance. True wisdom is a gift from Allah, and gratitude for it is the key to salvation. If this story has touched your heart, share it with others, because a single message, just like the call of the Hudhud, can change lives forever.